Hello everyone and welcome to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Discussion video where we are looking at the card Question. Quite the interesting card. It's not often seen in competitive play because it's not all that good. But I like to use it, I guess, in like fun decks just to mess with the opponent, to play the mind games. And even though this is barely ever seen, just this card makes me do my very best to remember what the first card is to hit the graveyard. Let's look at its effect. A spell card. When activating this card, your opponent cannot check cards in the graveyard. They normally can. Your opponent calls the name of the first monster found at the bottom of your graveyard. If he/she calls it right, the monster is removed from play, which is now known as it is banished. If he or she calls it wrong, the monster is special summoned to your side of the field. So you could essentially get a free summon. It could be for something that could normally be summoned, let's say Luster Dragon, 1900 attack, 1600 defense. It could be your Mizuki, it could be your Shadow Falco. However, it could also be something that normally needs tributes to summon. Blue Eyes White Dragon, Shadow Beast, something else big that can be special summoned. Just make sure it's something that can actually be special summoned and not something that can't. Like a Fusion no. That doesn't work because then the materials will be at the bottom. I don't know. Anyway, it is quite the interesting card, especially if you use it late game. Then the opponent very likely doesn't remember what card you have in the graveyard. So you can very likely get your summon. And if you know you can have the card in the deck, then the order with which you send cards to the grave can be important. Let's say you're playing a Utopia deck, and first turn you go Goblinberg into Gaga Magician, and then you overlay into Utopia. Utopia's destroyed, yeah, because of, let's say, card effect, while the two materials are still attached. Utopia goes to the graveyard first, according to the rules, and immediately followed by the two materials. But the two materials, you can choose the order. It could be important to choose, let's say, Gaga Magician. Why? Because you know you have Call of the Haunted to play next turn to revive Utopia, and you know you have a card that can get Goblinberg back from the grave because 0 defense. But you want to use Question, so Gaga Magician in the graveyard. You know, there's a lot of situations you can come up with how you're going to mess with the opponent, how you can alter the graveyard, being Gaga Magician in this scenario being the third card, but if you revive stuff, then it's the first card at the bottom, while the other two may be sent to the graveyard again later. You could really mess with the opponent. If it's wrong, the card is banished. Now, if the opponent is right, however, you can make use of this with something that wants to be banished. Some of the DD cards do, and I mean the not the D/D cards, like as used in Arc 5. Necrophase can also be used because Necrophase wants to be banished. And then you can get some nice effects if you're running a Necrophase deck. So this that could work in your favor. Now I am going to take a look at some of the tips, see what happens, see what we get. Question is best used late in the game when your opponent has most likely forgotten the first monster in the grave. Did mention that. Use cards like Soul Release or Skull Lair to make sure the monster at the bottom is not only one you can summon, but also one you want to summon. However, this might allow your opponent to easily guess the card. Target up to 5 cards in any grave, banish them, I suppose, because then the monster doesn't have to be the one at the bottom, and you can make it the bottom by banishing stuff. Could make them easily guessable. However, if you do use Soul Release, then your opponent may not remember the order that they were sent, so then they may still get confused. And if you have, let's say, two copies of Goblinberg somewhere, then banishing the bottom one or the top one in the graveyard can be important because Soul Release. So, yeah, Skull Lair, sort of the same thing, can banish monsters from the grave. Works well in Six Samurai deck. If you catch out your opponent, they have to say the complicated name perfectly. Cunning of the Six Samurai, Initiation's Chancellor. Karakuri deck, same. Each monster has a complicated name, including a specific number that the opponent has to remember. Is that really the case? Because with Mind Crush, you also have to say a very specific name, but because some names are just really difficult to remember, especially the Karakuris, The ruling was changed that if you can give a proper and clear explanation of the card, its effect, its stats, like half its name, so Karakuri, let's say the level 7 synchro from Karakuri is in the grave, you play question. I would say it's appropriate if you just say Karakuri Shogun Beret, because Beret Do is the level 8, Beret is the level 7, and it's Karakuri Shogun. It's Karakuri Shogun Beret. That's it. That could be. I feel that's appropriate. It should have the same ruling as Mind Crush. Maybe this card is just not used a lot, so the ruling wasn't updated on it, or it just doesn't exist yet. I don't actually know. I am going to look at rulings. In place of declaring a precise description of a card's stats, appearance, and/or effects is considered acceptable as long as there's a clear agreement. Yeah. Yep. So that does apply. So the Karakuri thing, these two things, they don't really apply. Unless Konami changes the ruling, but I don't expect it. Works with recycling effects like UFO, Masked Dragon, so you might think it's one of them, while something else might be there. Something like Revival, like Kobold Hedgehog, or Jinxing Crumbling, something back, could change the order. DD Scalp Planes at the bottom of the grave, it will be special summoned no matter what, because if it's banished, it's special summoned anyway. Necroface did say that. Escape from the Dark Dimension, if a dark monster is at the bottom of the grave. Let's see what that is. Oh yeah, because you can special summon the banished ones. So you either special summon it or use Escape to summon it. XYZ, VW, XYZ. Return of the Different Dimension, I suppose. But isn't that thing forbidden now? Pretty sure it is. Manipulate which monsters at the bottom with things like the Gates of Darkworld or Light Pulse or Dragon, because yeah, you can banish stuff, you can get stuff back. Banishing stuff from the grave, yeah, you can alter things quite a few times. Eclipse Wyvern had a good thing at the bottom of the grave, because you either summon it or you banish it, get the dragon back. But know that if you summon it, the first card you banished when it was sent to the grave, you will never get back unless you use a different effect. Eclipse Wyvern will get it back for you anymore. It's hard to pronounce. Is an excellent card to use with this card's effects, as it's hard to pronounce even with having the card to read. Mikazuki no Yaiba. Yeah, but it's a level 7, is these stats, it's normal really, and with that ruling, you don't have to have the same thing. If someone says the level 7 normal monster with the 2350 defense with the sword, they could be accepted. There may be a few others as well, but knowing they've played this and not anything else, that could be accepted. It would depend on the judges, I suppose, but I think it will be. Let's check the trivia. The man in this card's artwork also appears in Last Question and Reversal Quiz. That is correct. Last Question is only anime at this point. Reversal Quiz has its OTK. I've used a deck of that before. That is interesting. In most video games, this card is useless because the CPU will always scroll correctly. I didn't know that. And this card can be taken advantage of in some cases, such as when Necroface, the first card in the grave. Yeah, Necroface deck, you can banish. I'll just take a quick look at Necroface. When this card is removed from play, both players banish the top 5 cards of their deck. So that can be useful in a DD deck to banish more stuff, or just to deck the opponent out. That could also be a possibility. Alright, that was the video for today. It was a quick one, but I needed to be a quick one, unfortunately, because I need to go to bed somewhat early, and it is a little late already, because intro week for school starts tomorrow, and official school starts a week after that. Hope to have my internship soon as well, because I'm really excited to get back into that. Holiday vlogs coming back, a lot of things. TCG Online now part of my channel. I'll make a proper vlog about that, explaining stuff later, but that was the Yu-Gi-Oh video for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.